Hello everyone and welcome to this tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you how to debug your CEP extensions for Adobe programs using CEF remote debugging. Now this is using the Chromium embedded framework, which is basically the framework which runs things like Google Chrome and also extensions in this case. And using this we can actually debug our extension inside of our browser directly, and this allows us to do a lot of things like use console logs and interact and adjust things in the browser directly. This is a different method than I've taught before for debugging your extensions, and it's actually really useful in some ways and less useful in other ways. So today I'm going to show you the super easy setup on how to get started doing this so you can get started using CEF remote debugging. And also, before we get started, join the channel down below with the join button and get videos in advance. You get to see them way before the normal users, as well as make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, leave any comments, and join the Discord. So let's go ahead and jump into it and get started. We're going to be using the standard extension testing extension that I've had for quite some time, and we're going to basically just be modifying a single thing to make this work. I'm actually going to upload this updated code to the extension testing GitHub so you can have access to it. But in this case, what we're going to be doing is creating a .debug file. This is basically going to contain all of the information needed in order to get this to run in a browser and connect with After Effects. So for illustrative purposes, let's say we don't have the .debug file. Once you create it, you can kind of copy and paste it and adjust it to each of your projects as you need to debug. But we'll create a new file in our extension and call it .debug. Here's the base. It's using basic XML to have everything formatted. If you're familiar, of course, with the manifest, this actually will look very similar, and the way it's formatted and the information we're going to put in here is actually very similar and based on this manifest file. In the debug file, we have the XML version, the encoding, standard stuff, and then the list of extensions that we want to debug. If you want to, you can actually put multiple extensions to debug inside of this debug file. It has the host list as well as the actual host name. So this is the information we really want. To only change is the extension and its ID, as well as the host name and its port. These are all recognizable things from our actual manifest, and we can copy them precisely. So you can see here in execution environment, we have host list where we're choosing After Effects version 12 and above. So for the host name, we can put in After Effects, or if you wanted, you can do Premiere Pro. And then instead of the version number, we're going to put the port. Now the port is sort of arbitrary, and you can put whatever port you want. I don't think it actually matters, but we'll just go ahead and say like 912 or 9012. And then for the extension ID, this is also very important. This needs to be the extension ID listed here in your extension list in your manifest, not the normal com.extension.testing. This is the one below it in the extensions list, which in my cases usually has .panel. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste that name here, save it, and now we need to go ahead and load up our browser. Now let's assume we haven't loaded anything yet in our browser. What we're going to do is type in localhost : and after the colon is going to be the port number we assigned it. So we're going to say 9012. And as you can see, it says this page isn't working. That's because we actually need to launch the extension in order to see this. And you might say, well, it looks like it's launched already. Well, that's because we need to relaunch it, especially after we've made such a change involving the port. So I'm going to relaunch the extension, and now we need to look out for port 9012. And like whenever we change the actual manifest.xml in our extensions, we're going to want to restart After Effects in order to load these changes. Basically, if you're going to be changing the host application or the port number, we will need to restart, and go ahead and load up the extension here. Go to our browser, reload, and it's still not working. So let's try another arbitrary port, 9099. And I'm not sure why, but now I've changed it to port 9099, and I've restarted After Effects yet again. Now when I load my browser, change this to localhost 99. Now you can see we have this new display, Inspectable Web Contents. If we click on template 1A, which is actually the name of our test extension here, it's going to load inside of our browser. And that's the basics to getting this to work. Essentially, you just want to define your debug file with the extension name, the host application, and the port number, and then go to that port, localhost : port number. And now you can actually interact with it. If you had buttons and things like that, you can click them from here. You can do whatever you want as you would from the extension. If you make changes in the extension itself, or click on things and make visual changes, they will appear as well in the browser. And the cool thing about this is now we have a console log. If we go into our main.js, you can see I've now added console log start and console log this path variable. You can see we get our start one as well as our path variable. This is much more efficient than using alerts or writing to a debug file, so I recommend this if you're looking for a better debugging solution. Similarly, if we have something like an object with just some test parameters, and we want to show this in the console log, this is going to be way easier to see and parse out compared to, say, alerts or debug information to a file. Why? Well, let's go ahead and relaunch the extension. And this is a very important part of CEF debugging. Pay attention here. When you make a change, you can't just refresh the page. This is probably the most annoying thing. You have to go back. If you click reconnect, it doesn't do anything. You have to go back to this page here, the direct localhost page, and refresh it. Then the link will now be unvisited, and we can click on it for the updates. This is because each time we have one of these debugging sessions, it looks like there's a new kind of hash or page hash developed or created for the end of the URL. And every time you make a save to your extension, this hash changes. So we have to go back, refresh, and go back into it. But now you can see we have our console logged object, which is in a nice standard sort of browser debugging format. And this makes it super easy to check out information, copy it, debug it, and all of that. And another cool thing with CEF, it will tell you a lot of errors that if you didn't debug this way, you wouldn't know about. For example, you have failed to load resource, file not found. It's missing a font. If I were to just run this, it would work fine. It's going to have a missing font, but we would have no idea until we go into CEF or have someone tell us, hey, where's this font? So CEF can tell you information or bugs that are happening that you may not see if you're just developing with alerts or things like that. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. That's going to be how to set up CEF remote debugging for your CEP extensions. Just set up your debug file, set up the extension name, the port, all of that. And then once you load it up in the browser, you can debug it using the console, check out the actual elements generated, and a whole bunch of useful stuff. I know this has been a sort of debugging thing that's been known since the beginning of CEP, but I've really never used until recently, and I'm now seeing the advantages of having used it. Thanks again for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time.